Hello, grade 12 students, and welcome to a new technical English lesson. Today we will study Unit 2, Lesson 2, Part 2, Coursebook page 13, Workbook page 9. Let's start our lesson. Let's start with the objectives of today's lesson. After studying this lesson, you will be able to study and practice using the present simple passive, rewrite a text about meter rolling process using the passive form. Our starter today is a video. Watch the following video and answer the following question. What are the advantages of rotational molding? Let's watch the video.
Toter products are built for extremes. Our advanced rotational molding process creates products that withstand the stress of daily use. This unique process begins when plastic micropellets are added to molds. The molds are rotated biaxially in an oven until the resin melts and coats the inside of the molds. Next, the mold moves to the cooling chamber, where the temperature is carefully reduced with air and water to ensure optimal impact strength and performance of the final product. After the molds cool and the cards have cured, they are removed from the mold. The cards are trimmed and final imprinting and assembly complete the process. Rotationally molded cards provide many advantages over injection molded cards, including superior toughness and durability, greater impact resistance, unique design and structural capabilities. The result is products built for extreme purposes.
Now, what's your answer to the question? What are the advantages of rotational molding? Number 1, superior toughness and durability. Number 2, great impact resistance. Number 3, unique design and structural capabilities. Good. Let's study a very important grammar lesson. Read the following two sentences. What is the tense of the two sentences? Good. Both sentences are in the present simple. Now, the first sentence is in the present simple active, and the second sentence is in the present simple but passive. Now, let's have a look at the sentences. What is the subject of the first sentence? Khalid is the subject. What about the verb? What is the verb of the second sentence, the first sentence? Plays. What is the object, المفعول, of the first sentence? Football. Now let's move to the second sentence. What is the subject of the second sentence? Football. If you notice that football was the object in the first sentence, so we started the sentence with the object. Then let's move to the verb. What do you notice about the verb? Yes, we know that we used verb to be in the present. Here, football is a singular, so we used is, and after is, we use the past participle of the verb, plays. Plays, the past participle is played. Then the object, we can use it or we can leave it by Khalid every day. So to change a sentence from active into passive, we use verb to be, am, is, are, according to the subject. If it is singular, we use is. If it is plural, we use are. Then after that, plus past participle. Past participle. تصريف الثالث in the passive voice. Now let's have a look at this chart. That chart summarizes the steps of changing a present simple sentence from active into passive. Let's have a look at, if we have the subject, I, we use am with it. If the subject is he, she, it, and also singular, Ahmad, Muhammad, for example, we use is. If the subject is you, we, they, we use are. What comes after verb to be in the present comes the past participle. We add ed if we have a regular verb. If we have an irregular verb, we have to write it. Examined, invited, cleaned, given. So the subject, then verb to be in the present, am or is or are, according to the subject, then the past participle. Now please open your course book, page 13, exercise language. Let's have a look at the steps of changing the sentence from active into passive into if the sentence in the present simple. With an active verb, the subject, the agent, the subject carries out the action. A rotating screw pushes the plastic pellet. So this sentence is in the passive because the subject الفاعل بيقوم بالفعل. A rotating screw pushes. Okay? With a passive verb لما تكون الجملة مبنية مجهول, the subject or the agent, the subject doesn't carry out the action. The agent does the action to the subject. For example, the plastic pellets are pushed by a rotating screw because they cannot push themselves. Now let's move to exercise 5. Look at the diagram in exercise number 1 again and complete these sentences using the active or passive forms of the verbs in brackets as appropriate. You have 5 minutes to do the activity. When you finish, please play the video again to check your answers. You can start now. Welcome back, my dear students. Now let's check your answers. Number 1. Look at the verb here. Plastic pellets. Do plastic pellets store themselves? No, they cannot store themselves. So we will use the passive voice here. Plastic pellets are or is good, is, or are good, are stored in a hopper at the top of the machine. Number 2, the pieces of plastics transfer from the hopper into a cylinder. Let's do the same as we did in the first sentence. Look at the subject, the pieces of plastic. And let's have a look at the verb, transfer. Can the pieces of plastic transfer themselves? No. So we will use the passive, are transferred. Good. Let's move to the third sentence. The plastic propel along the cylinder by a rotating screw. Good, is propelled. Number 4. The heaters around the cylinder raise the temperature of the plastic. We will use passive or active here. Good. Here we will use the active. Present, simple, active. Raise. Number 5. As a result, the soft, warm plastic softens and flows more easily. The last step, the plastic force under pressure through a small nozzle is forced. Good. Now let's move to exercise 6. Rewrite the paragraph below. Improve it by changing some but not all the verbs to the passive form. Delete the agent. Make any other necessary changes. Begin some sentences with first, next, now, and finally as appropriate. For example, let's have a look at the first sentence. Someone adjusts the gap between the rulers to the correct width. We can change the sentence into passive and we can say First, the gap between the rulers is adjusted to the correct width. Okay, now you have 5 minutes to do the rest of the sentences, to change the rest of the sentences in the paragraph. When you finish, play the video again to check your answers. Welcome back, my dear students. Now, this is the model answer. Let's read the answer together. First, the gap between the rulers is adjusted to the correct width. Next, the motor is switched on and the heavy rulers begin to rotate in opposite directions. Now the metal plate is heated and then the hot metal plate is pushed through the gap between the rulers. As the hot metal moves between the rulers, it is compressed by the rulers to a thinner shape. Finally, the metal comes out from the rulers in the form of a metal sheet, and it is then cooled, which is then cooled. Now please open your workbook, page 9, exercise number 2. In exercise number 2, you have 2 activities. The first activity, read the text below about the process of rotational molding. Put the picture in the correct order. You have to put the pictures in the correct order. This is your first job. Complete the text using the active or passive form of the verbs in brackets. Then this is your second job, to complete the text. One gap can be filled with the active or passive of the verb. You have 10 minutes to do the 2 activities. When you finish, please come back to check your answers. Welcome back, my dear students. Now let's check your answers. Number 1, it is E. What's your answer? What is the second step? Which picture represents the second step? It's picture C. Good. Then D is the third step. Then B. Finally A. Now let's check your answers to the completion exercise. Rotational molding is a high temperature, low pressure plastic forming process. It uses heat and rotation along 2 axes to produce hollow one-piece parts. The process is simple but slow. It uses or is used. What do you think? Good. It is used for making large hollow objects like oil tanks. A quantity of plastic raw material, usually in powder form, loads or is loaded into the mold. The mold is heated in an oven while it rotates. It can do the verb itself. The plastic raw material melts and coats the inside surface of the mold. When the inside of the mold is coated or coats, is coated, yes. It is cooled, usually by a fan. The cooling process takes between 10 and 20 minutes, depending on the size of the part and the thickness of the coating. As it cools or is cooled, we can use both active and passive. We can say cools or is cooled. The molded object shrinks and comes away from the sides of the mold. This makes it easier to take out the object at the end of the cooling process. At the end, the object is removed. By this stage, the object is cool enough to handle. I hope you enjoyed today's lesson, my dear students. Till we meet again in a new English lesson, goodbye.